Welcome to the Three Questions webcast series. I'm Wayne Baxter, Senior Executive Manager with One Capital Management. On this edition, we're going to address the three questions about real estate transactions and consumer protection. Thank you for taking time to check us out. And if you enjoy this episode of the Three Questions webcast series, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Now, at One Capital Management, we develop and implement strategies that strive for our clients to grow, protect, and ultimately distribute their wealth. And we do that by offering investment wealth management services. My clients are often referred to as cross-border clients. Now, why would that be? Well, it's because they're either U.S. or Canadian residents who invest in U.S. and or Canadian dollar-denominated securities like stocks, bonds, and ETFs. Our process for advising our clients includes an in-depth discovery and diagnostic analysis of their wealth management goals and objectives. And as you would expect, there will be discussions regarding real estate purchases. And for planning purposes, we'll calculate costs related to our clients' real estate transactions. And some of these costs would include purchase and or sale price, of course, capital gains taxes, cost basis, adjusted sales price, mortgage expenses, and any applicable taxes related, and exclusions for our U.S. clients as well, U.S.-based clients. Another variable we'll estimate is real estate commissions, and recent litigation here in the U.S. could end up changing how millions of Americans buy and sell homes. I've invited a real estate attorney with over 30 years of experience in the real estate industry to discuss this very interesting and timely topic. On this edition of the webcast, we'll be asking the three questions about real estate transactions and consumer protection. Joining us is Jennifer Felten. She is the principal with Westlake Village, California-based RELAW APC. And one of the primary goals of RELAW APC is to inform clients of all the options available to them so they can make informed decisions about how to proceed with their real estate law case. Jennifer, great to see you. Thank you for making time to join us today. Really happy you could make it.
Thank you for having me, Wayne. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I know it's kind of on short notice, so really appreciate it and look forward to the discussion today and going over our three questions. But just before we get into that, I thought it'd be a good idea. Why don't you provide our audience with an overview of RELAW APC, who you are, what you do, and why you're so unique?
Perfect. So RELAW APC is a real estate law firm based out of Southern California. Our focus is representing businesses and investors in the real estate space. So escrow companies, title companies, developers, syndicators, all of those people who make real estate their business, we make our business. We are that outside general counsel that can help them from startup to wind down and anywhere in between. So we really focus on that niche, which has all kinds of regulatory and legal issues that are unique to their needs.
So one additional question on top of that. Now, obviously, you're here in California. If someone outside of California watches or hears our webcast today and they're compelled by what the topic is, if they are not a resident of California, can you help them in any way, or do you have to refer them to another firm in the state that they're located?
It depends on what their issue is. If it's a real property, where the real property is, not necessarily where they are, is where we need to be talking about, because real estate is a state law issue versus a federal issue. So you can have, for example, Canadians, a lot of them have properties in California, right?
And Florida. And
so,
Arizona.
Right. So we could definitely help them with their California piece of their portfolio, right? And then work with them on other things with our connections.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to double check on that. Okay, so here's sort of a backstory. A couple of weekends ago, on a Sunday morning, I'm enjoying my Sunday morning coffee, and I'm reading my favorite newspaper, the Wall Street Journal. Free advertising there for them. They're welcome. And I came across an article entitled "How the $1.8 Billion Real Estate Commission Lawsuit Came to Be." Now, the short story, in short, if you will, this article outlined how recent litigation could end up changing how millions of Americans buy and sell homes. And I'll add to that, as a Canadian, this is a line that you'll hear Canadian media say, is that when America sneezes, Canada gets a cold. So if this could change in America, I can see potentially issues north of the border. I don't know for certain, but I wouldn't be surprised. So, so I'm reading this article, and no word of a lie, I'm literally not even halfway through the article, and I'm thinking to myself, I need to get a hold of Jennifer Felten and see if she can come on my webcast to talk about this. So first of all, thank you again for making time on such short notice. And for the folks listening in, you're going to find out why I invited Jennifer here very shortly. Okay, let's get to the questions and we'll carry on here. So it's the 3 questions you should ask about real estate transactions and consumer protection. So the first question, obviously the place to start, is how do real estate commissions become a consumer protection issue? Jennifer.
Right. Well, I mean, this all actually goes back way before the case that you read about, right? So it all started with the Department of Justice, right? So the federal government here in the United States, their job is to make sure that consumers aren't being taken advantage of by different businesses. And they looked at how real estate agents and agencies work and how commissions work and how they work with each other. And in particular, how most realtors use what's called the multiple listing service, right? Which is
MLS for short, right?
Correct. The MLS, which is a way that they share information so that they can sell properties, right? It's a database used for that purpose. Well, they looked at those practices and those procedures and they had concerns. They felt that some of those practices might be in violation of federal law, antitrust, unfair trade, collusion. Those were the concerns that they had. And so the Department of Justice actually filed a lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors. That was the original start of this.
How long far back was that?
About 4 years ago.
Okay.
So that case settled, though it's way more complicated than all that because it settled, and then the DOJ withdrew from the settlement, and then the NAR sued, and the court affirmed the settlement, and now the federal government has appealed.
It's a soap opera.
Nothing is ever final in the legal system, as us lawyers love, because it keeps us in business. But those concepts, those claims by the federal government were the trigger for class action lawyers to say, oh, maybe there's something here, right? Maybe there's an opportunity.
Because they're always looking for opportunities to sue where they can.
Correct. Looking at, with the right intentions.
Litigate, yes.
If there's a problem, if an industry or a group or a company is doing something wrong, there should be a recourse, right? And so that's where this came from. And so there's actually multiple private lawsuits that have been filed with that DOJ original accusation being the kind of the starting point, right, of the claims and the accusations. So there's been multiple cases going on for several years. The case that just got settled was in Missouri. It was in federal court in Missouri, and it just happened to be the first one to get a trial date, right? And it went before a jury. It was a jury trial in federal court, and the jury agreed with the plaintiffs, right, the class, that some of the behaviors of the realtors were in violation of federal law, and because of that, they awarded damages. The damage award was in 1.9 billion with a B dollars. But it's way worse than that. Because
more impactful.
Correct. Well, worse money wise, but also there's a whole bunch of potential impacts. Financially, the statute that this case was brought under and the codes that they were claiming, these are intentional wrongs, right? In law, we call them intentional torts, right? So when you do something on accident, you can still have a problem, right? You did something wrong, like negligence, right? We talk about someone was negligent. They made a mistake, right? They didn't do something wrong on purpose. They made a mistake, but it damaged someone, right? So there's
harm. Yeah.
Right. So it's called a tort in law, and there's a legal remedy for a tort. But the causes of action in this case are what are called intentional torts. So it wasn't an accident. It was intentional. They are accused of collusion and conspiracy and fraud, right? Those are the causes of action. So not only is there a damages award, the statute allows for punitive damages, right? So, and it's treble, which is 3. So this could actually be over a $5 billion judgment when this all comes down.
5.4 billion or something.
Correct. So it's way bigger than just the number, right? From a practical standpoint. Now, again, just like with the federal case, this case is far from over, right? There's going to be appeals. It's going to take years for any of this to finally work itself out. So the financial impact is still, besides the paying all the lawyers, no one's paying any judgment anytime soon. But the practical impact for both consumers, right, which is what we're talking about, the consumer protection aspect, and for the real estate profession could be life-changing, honestly.
Yeah, and I guess I'm going to segue into our next question, but just to circle back here. So
Yeah.
one of the main issues that I understand, and again, when it comes to real estate transactions, I am a layperson at best. But my understanding, the issue behind all this is the establishment of commissions by the seller. Hope you can correct me if I'm wrong here.
What it has to do with is how commissions are paid and
Right.
shared, right? So the model in the United States, for the vast majority of the country, not everywhere is exactly the same, but for the vast majority of the country, when a property is sold through a realtor, the seller hires a real estate agent, right? And they sign what's called a listing agreement, right? They sign a contract and agree to pay that agent broker a commission.
And that is shared with the buyer, with the buying agent, correct?
Correct. Through the multiple listing service, right, through the MLS, those agents post those properties for sale, and they offer to other agents and brokers, if they bring a buyer, a portion of that commission will be paid to them. Okay.
And the concern that I heard, and again, you're here to correct me if I'm wrong, is that there are some suggestions that some of the buying agents were steering clients towards purchases that paid higher commissions.
That's part of the issue.
Part of it. Okay.
So part of the issue is yes, if I'm a real estate agent, because I'm not getting paid by my buyer, right? If I'm representing a buyer, I'm not getting paid by the buyer, I'm getting paid by the seller.
Right.
If I'm on that MLS and one house is offering 2% and another house is offering 2.5%, am I only going to show them the one where I'm going to make more money? That's one of the accusations, right? And one of the concerns. And this was part of, again, the DOJ claim. And part of the settlement with the DOJ is that realtors are no longer allowed. There used to be able to search by cooperating commission in the MLS. You cannot search by cooperating commission anymore, though you can still read.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you can't sort as quite as easy as you used to.
Correct.
So
it really doesn't solve the problem.
If you have any ability to read an Excel spreadsheet, you probably could figure it out.
You can still figure out what they're offering, right? And so agents, if they are only showing properties where they're going to get what they want to get paid versus showing a buyer every property that would meet their criteria, we have a fiduciary duty problem, right? Because the agents are fiduciaries of their parties. And so there is a problem if that's what's going on. And that's one of the accusations. But this case and the other side of it is that because of cooperation and the way it's set up, the amounts of commissions are higher, right? That a buyer wouldn't pay what the sellers are paying for that service, and whether the value and quality of the service supports.
I remember, you're right. And I remember reading something in the article about the fact that in this day and age, the buyers themselves are doing a lot more of the due diligence behind the houses they're looking to buy than they would have in years past, right?
Well, because they can, right? You used to not, it wasn't readily available.
Right.
Part of it was the MLS was behind a paywall, right? You had to be a member, so you didn't have access. But that's not true anymore because the MLSs sell their data. So the data is actually out there now, right? And not everybody lists their property through a realtor. So there are other databases where you can find properties and information. So yes, those are some of the arguments. And I'm not taking a side on it. I'm just saying this is where these arguments are coming
exactly from. Why I wanted to have you on. That's fine. I'm not looking to champion one side or the other, but just to get on to the next question. And by the way, great overview.
Yeah.
I would imagine a lot of people weren't even aware this is going on behind the scenes. So that's why I really wanted to have you join me today. So the second question, of course, leading from the first question is, how did consumer protection become a part of real estate transactions? So the second question is, what impact will these consumer protection issues have on real estate buyers and sellers? I mean, apparently, according to what you were saying, nothing immediate, but what do you potentially foresee?
There's some immediate impacts, right? I do think the conversations between real estate agents and their parties are going to change, right? Because that's part of the issue is, were they being forthright, honest, upfront with their parties about how commissions work, how they're paid, who owes what can we do? So things like, brokerages used to say, we will not list your property below a certain number. Our company policy is that we will only do 5%, 6%, whatever it is, right? You can't do that anymore. Or they would say our company policy is we always share 2% or 2.5%. Again, those old lines are not going to be allowed anymore. A clear and concise and fair representation of how commissions work and what is recommended versus what is required are going to need to start happening. So that, I think, is going to start happening now. There are going to be sellers who know this happened and they're not going to want to cooperate. They're not going to want to share, right? And so if that's the case, is it going to impact, right? Are the agents not going to show the properties, or are the buyer's agents going to go to the buyers and start to talk to them about paying commissions, right? And is the whole model going to shift from the seller paying all of the commissions to the buyer paying part of the commissions to the seller paying part of the commissions, right? And all of that is on the table. The case in Missouri, which was just decided, there is still stuff to go on in that underlying case, right? And one of the things that's before the judge is potentially imposing an injunction to prohibit the cooperation and the sharing of commissions through the MLS. If an injunction is issued, that practice will stop immediately, right? And how commissions are paid will change immediately. I don't know if the judge will issue an, I mean, who knows? But
that would be huge.
Oh, no question. Ultimately, I do think it's going to shift to that. I'll just tell you, I don't, if without an injunction, it will take years, right? We will see a gradual shift. With an injunction, it happens immediately. Wow. So there's a lot of conversations and buyer paying, seller paying. And so think about this from a technical standpoint. So if we have buyers now paying commissions, or what's currently being kind of done is buyer's agents, if they're smart, and my rule, I have a broker's license, but I don't sell property. I was like, if anybody's getting in my car, if I'm showing someone property, I'm going to have a contract with them, right? They're going to have agreed that I'm representing them and I'm getting paid. But that's not been the custom and practice. Buyer's agents, another one of the issues is that buyer's agents often represented that they were free, right? I'm free. You can hire me and it doesn't cost you anything. Well, that's not true. They weren't.
They're being paid. It does cost because.
Right. The seller's pay. So it affects what the seller's willing to accept, and it affects the deal. So again, it goes to whether there was misrepresentations and all of that. So now a buyer's agent should be getting a contract with their buyer saying, yes, I'm your agent, and you're going to agree to pay me whatever commission percentage we agree to, with the understanding that we're going to ask the seller to pay it, right? And the seller may be offering it, but they may not be, right? So maybe the seller's offering 1% for cooperating commission. I get an agreement with my buyer's agent that says I'm going to pay 2.5%. So either the seller's going to pay one of it, and now the buyer's going to pay 1.5%, and the seller's going to pay 1%, or I can say, yeah, I know you only offered 1%, but I want 2.5%. And so I offer my price, but with them agreeing to pay my agent's commission, right? So we're going to have this, smorgasbord of potential commissions and cooperation and who's paying who, what, when, where. It's going to change all of those conversations.
Well, all right. So my third question, kind of, we, cleverly segued this into the third question is, and again, thanks a lot for the overview. It doesn't happen a lot of times on my webcast that I say, wow, but you did it. Okay. So based on the current state of claims, what do you see in the future for real estate buyers and sellers? Like what's, you can play Karnak the Magnificent here, Jennifer. And
well, again, the conversations are going to change. who's paying is going to change, right? I do think buyers are going to start paying commissions. I do think that's what will happen. Again,
The actual buyers, not
correct. I do, but it means they're going to offer less, right? I'm not convinced that the ultimate dollars and cents shift, right? I do think that, so I've been in this industry a long time, right? You said I've been in here doing this over 30 years. When I started in this industry, the average commissions were 6%.
Yep.
Right?
I
Real
remember it
estate
well.
commissions
Same in
were,
Canada, no different.
today they're about 5%, right? That has shifted, and across the country, the average commission number is right around 5%. I
Was
think
the oh,
the
sorry.
next, within the next few years, I think that number will end up closer to 4. That I do think there will be a softening of percentages of commissions as a result of this ruling.
All right, so lower commit. Interesting.
Mhm.
All right, you and I both have a lot of friends in the real estate business. Some of my very best friends, actually, since I moved here to California, I have note.
Mhm.
So before we wrap up the webcast, now you've shared your thoughts on how real estate buyers and sellers are going to be impacted. Would you hazard a guess as to how our friends in the real estate industry could be affected as well? I mean, is it a restating of the obvious, or what do you foresee?
No, it's interesting because this is, look, change is part of life, and this is going to be a huge change, right? And so I can tell you, in talking to agents, there's a lot of fear
I
and
bet.
anxiety. But I actually see this as an opportunity, and that's what they should be focusing on as well, right? They haven't gotten buyer broker agreements because nobody else did, right? Like, that's the answer I get when I'm like, why don't you get agreements? Well, nobody else does. They won't do it if nobody else does. Well, now everybody's going to, right? So this allows them to have that conversation and actually contract with their parties. They're going to have to learn how to do what, when you're representing a seller, you go and you meet with the seller and you do what's called a listing presentation, right?
Mhm.
You sit with them and you explain what value you add to the transaction and why you're the agent they should hire. They're going to need to learn how to do that with the buyers. They're going to have to build buyer presentations where they say to a buyer, look, if you work with me, I can negotiate a better price. I can work on the commissions. I can work with you and help you in dealing with disclosures, in dealing with requests for repairs, right? All the different things, explaining to them what value they bring to the table of why they should be their agent, and why that money is, they're earning their money. They earn what they get paid. They don't articulate it, right? And so
Interesting.
that's what's going to need to change. And what that means is that the good agents will figure this out and they will survive and thrive,
100%.
and the bad agents won't make it, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Wow.
what's going to happen, in my humble opinion, for agents. So they need to see this as an opportunity, not a threat.
Yeah,
Right?
to me, what you just shared, I think I would imagine, and maybe I'll be corrected as I often can be. I think if for most people listening or watching today, I think they would say that, well, heavens, shouldn't the buying agent be doing that already anyway?
Yes, in my opinion,
Seriously, I mean,
yes. But that's not how our system developed, right?
right.
And that's what
To me,
happens. Custom and practices happen, and it's very hard to shift them. Well, this is going to shift, right? That we've created a shift, and again, in my opinion, I actually think at the end of the day, there's a lot more positives than negatives from this shift.
I think the point you make, and a good friend of mine shared a saying with me many, many years ago, and I think it's applicable here. It's applicable here, and that is act or be acted upon.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Seriously, I think that's really what we're coming down here.
Right. Well, I'm a big believer in who moved my cheese, right? Like,
Yes,
so the real estate commission cheese just moved, and
yes,
they need to go to where it's going to be, right?
right. Well, I mean, I again, this is not my industry, and I don't want to step into a place that I'm not really an expert in. But it seems like a rather logical solution could be conjured up here without needing a group of Ivy League or MIT grads to figure out how do we articulate how we are going to get paid. if we understand that real estate buyers are going to be paid 1-2%, then it's simply a matter of just disclosing that in the agreements.
It's about
I'm sure my real estate friends will say, Wayne, stay in your lane. But it seems to me
no. And look,
anyway,
they're not going anywhere, right? Real estate agents aren't going anywhere. We're just going to do it differently.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, I'm sure, if it isn't on people's on people's radar right now, I'm pretty sure probably over the next little while it will be. And on that note, for we've included your contact for the folks watching, and they're going to see your contact information under you on the screen here. But for anyone who wants to get a hold of you, Jennifer, whether they're here in California, or like you say, they may own property in California, what's the best way for them to contact you? Is it by phone, email, website? How would you like them to do that?
My website's the easiest place to get information. So it's www.relawapc.com.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, first of all, I want to just again thank you again on relatively short notice here, making time to join me today. I really appreciate it. Jennifer Felten is the principal in Westlake Village, California, with a firm called RELAW APC. Jennifer, thanks. It was great seeing you, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
I'll talk to you soon, Wayne.
I look forward to bringing you the 3 Questions webcast, and I hope you find them educational and informative. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. And to receive a notification of when our latest webcast has been posted, please click on the notifications bell. Lastly, to schedule an online Zoom consultation with me to discuss your wealth management needs, please click on the link in the description box below, www.onecapital.com/meet with Wayne. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.